Hey everybody, it's John King, and it is Friday, the 29th of August. I apologize for, I kind of had a live stream last week, although it wasn't the full live stream that I normally do about the market. I was more focused last week on the Dream for All program and the big release of vouchers that we got last week. And so this week, I'm going to go back to the normal scheduled programming and talk about just the market and what the heck is going on in the market. And for buyers, for sellers, for realtors, I want to be your resource to help guide you on what's happening and why. So let's dive in and talk about it, starting with the jobs report. Jobs report next week is the big market test. So I'm going to rewind you back 4 weeks ago. So 4 weeks ago, Friday, I think it was the first, 4 weeks ago, I did a live stream and I talked about how I think mortgage rates are going on sale for the next 45 days. And guess what? I was right. Mortgage rates have come down. So we've seen mortgage rates coming down, and there was one reason and one reason only that was the catalyst, and that was the jobs report. So in August, the first Friday in August, we got the report from July, and it showed very low job growth, and it revised way down the number of jobs that were created in June and in May. Well, that actually caused Donald Trump to fire the head of the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. So now the next big test of the BLS job numbers is a week from today. We're going to see one of two things. We're either going to see low job growth that will confirm what we've expected, and that will keep everything on track. Or we're going to see job growth back up again, and we're going to say, oops, we were wrong about being wrong. Because they said last month they were wrong about lots of jobs and that they're really a lot lower. And if they show high jobs again in a week, that means that they're losing confidence in the statistical accuracy of the data. Now, I think there's a lot of anomalies here, but the fact is that the market is worried. Trump has made people worried about, hey, does the government actually know how to keep track of the data accurately? And can we trust that data? We saw the jobs numbers go way down. If they come back up, we're going to see mortgage rates spike next Friday. Like, we're going to see a big jump in mortgage rates next Friday if the jobs report comes in strong. But if the jobs report comes in weak, it will confirm. So anything that happens once is just an anomaly. Anything that happens twice is confirmation. If the jobs numbers come in low next week, it will confirm the direction that we're going. Now, I don't think that's going to cause rates to drop significantly. I think the market is really on hold for what's going to happen on the September 17th meeting, because September 17th is when the Fed is expected to announce that they're lowering interest rates. Do not get confused and think that, oh my gosh, the Fed controls interest rates and the Fed is going to drop rates on September 17th. I should wait to lock my loan until September 18th. The Fed does not control mortgage rates. They control short-term rates, money that's borrowed overnight from the government to a banking institution. That is the only thing the federal government controls. So if you wait until September 18th, you may in fact be at a worse position, because it's not about what the Fed does on September 17th. It's about what the Fed says on September 17th about what they're going to do going forward. That's the critical thing to understand. This is about us predicting the future. We already have predicted the Fed's going to lower rates on September 17th. But back to the jobs report next week. If that jobs report comes in with lots of jobs created, then the market's going to say, maybe the Fed isn't going to lower rates on September 17th. And we've been driving mortgage rates down because we expect the Fed to lower rates, and that means rates are going to jump up next Friday. I said it twice now on this live stream. So if you are waiting to lock your rate, if you are looking to refinance your property, that's the hardest when you're looking to refinance, because you're in complete control over when you start. You could start now, you could start a month from now, you could start 6 months from now. When you're purchasing a home, you have a very short window. You have to get into contract, and once you're in contract, you have a short time to lock. So if you are refinancing, you've got to think, hey, do I want to, if the numbers make sense now, do I want to just pull the trigger and take the win? Okay, it's kind of taking some of the chips off the table. Got no one to hold them, got no one to fold them, no one to walk away, and no one to run. Well, next Friday could be really bad news if the jobs number comes in strong. So if the numbers look good, you may want to lock in by Thursday. Okay, remember, Monday's a holiday, but you may want to lock in by Thursday. If you're purchasing and you are in contract and you're saying, oh, I'll play out the numbers and see what happens with the Fed, recognize you've got a lot of gain. The market has improved significantly over the last month. Now, significantly might be 0.25, 0.3% in interest rate, but in my world, that's pretty significant. So we've seen a significant drop in the last month. You may just want to be happy with that and take your chips off the table, because the market's going to be super volatile next Friday. The market's going to be super volatile on the day that the Fed makes their announcement on September 17th. And by the way, both of those things might be non-issues. It might play out exactly the way the market expects, and rates don't change at all. But it's a big if. And that's where you have to decide, are the numbers good enough for me to just lock it and close my eyes and move forward? Because in today's world, locking and having the ability to float down almost exists almost nowhere. So in general, most lenders, when you lock, you're locked. That's the rate you're going to get. And the unknown is what's going to be the rate tomorrow, next week, next month. For those people looking to refinance, you got a lot more thinking, because you can wait and hope that things are going to look better at the end of the year. They might not. And so I'm a fan of, let's look at the numbers. Let's figure out what is the right number for you. And if we're there, strike while the iron is hot. We had last year a repeat of what we're dealing with right now. Last year, we saw interest rates drop. I said it 4 weeks ago that I saw interest rates following the same pattern they did last year, where the Federal Reserve has said, hey, we think we're going to start lowering interest rates in September. Mortgage rates fell pretty significantly. But last year, rates had fallen way more from the beginning of the year until August. So beginning of 2020, really in October of 2023, through August of 2024, rates went from 8.25% to 6.25%. This year, maybe let's talk about last year in October 2024, rates had spiked back up to around 7.25%. But that's the highest that we've seen really in the last 12 months. Now they're back down to around 6.5%. So we saw a drop, but only about 0.75% drop in the last year, versus a year ago, we'd seen rates drop by 2%. Here's why that matters. Because last year, rates spiked right after the Fed announced their rate cut. Why did that happen? It happened because the market thought we're on a straight downward trend, and we went from 8 to 6, and we're going to get to 4 in a couple minutes. And then the Fed kind of poured some water on that in September and said, hey, we're dropping rates, but now we're going to take it slow. We're going to take a measured approach. And the market freaked out and said, oh my gosh, you're slamming the brakes on this before we even started lowering rates. There's the fear that's going to happen again, except our downward trend hasn't been as steep. We've been more of a gradual downward trend this year. So the bounce, if there is one, shouldn't be as bad as last year. But historically, more often than not, when the Fed first starts lowering interest rates again, the first reaction is a little bit of a bounce up, because the market was hopeful that the rate drops were going to come faster and larger than what the Fed actually predicts, and they pour some water on the market's expectations. So this is going to be a crazy month. This is going to be a crazy few weeks. And the other piece of this that's kind of thrown in there is the drama with Trump and the Fed. So if you haven't been paying attention, Trump has been determined to get Powell out. Trump has been determined to get multiple Fed presidents out, Fed board members. And so another one this week, Trump fired a Federal Reserve board member on Monday night. Now that Fed member on Tuesday said, no, I'm suing you. You don't have the right to fire me. Very interesting dynamics that are going on right now. But again, it's creating a lot more uncertainty. And for you, if you're in the home buying or home selling market, you have to understand this is going to make even more volatility. So we've got winter buyer opportunities on the horizon. We're seeing them right now. Unfortunately, buyer opportunities means bad news for sellers. Now, I'm not speaking of every single housing market, but I'm speaking of a lot of them. Even some of the heaviest and hottest markets, I'm seeing price reductions. I'm seeing concessions. I'm seeing sellers willing to negotiate that I had not seen in years and years. Like since pre-COVID, I have not seen this amount of sellers willing to negotiate. And so that's a huge opportunity if you're a buyer. It's a huge red flag if you're a seller. Okay. A lot of sellers are saying, hey, I'm worried that the market is going to drop significantly and I want to get ahead of it. I don't see that happening. There was an article that came out last week that talked about, oh my gosh, 40% of the mortgages that banks hold are adjustable rate mortgages. We're in for another crisis like we had in 2008. We're not. Okay. So here's the difference between now and 2008. First of all, that article was skewed information because it's talking about what the mortgages are that private banks hold, not mortgage companies. And banks lend on way more than just single family residences. They do a lot of commercial mortgages. They do a lot of multifamily properties. All commercial loans are adjustable rate mortgages. A large number of multifamily apartment buildings are adjustable rate mortgages. That's just how the banking industry does it. That is not conventional 30-year fixed residential single family homes they're talking about. The majority of single family homes are fixed rate mortgages. The majority, like over 90%, are fixed rate mortgages. The ones that are not are multi-million-dollar properties. These are people that make millions of dollars a year that are saying, hey, I'm okay with the risk because I can afford it if it goes up, but I want to leverage or get the benefit out of the lower rate I can get on my multi-million-dollar mortgage. That is not what the market is full of. That is what caused the problem in 2008 was too many people had adjustable rate mortgages. That was a big issue in 2008 because we saw the market start to turn in 2008 just like it's turning right now. We saw people who needed to sell their home and they did whatever it took to sell their home, just like we're seeing right now. We saw people lose their job in 2008 and not be able to make the payment and have to sell their home, just like we're seeing right now. The difference is in 2008, all residential, the majority of residential homeowners had adjustable rate mortgages that were coming due in 2009 or coming due in 2010. And they had to refinance or their payment was going to skyrocket and they couldn't refinance because values had started to slip. And then they slipped more because somebody else lost their home, and they slipped more because somebody else lost their home. And so that became a domino effect that we don't see happening in this cycle. All right, I got a question. Annie says, what about land? Is it a good time to make negotiations on land or only houses? So Annie, that's a great question. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a huge fan of land as an investment. That's kind of funny because a lot of people are going to say, the old adage of, hey, they stopped making land a long time ago and there's only so much of it. And so it's always a good investment. I kind of feel the opposite. Now, it all depends on your personal situation. I think you'll always have a good opportunity to negotiate on land because half the time sellers on land were dreamers whose dream fell apart. Let me explain that to you. Bare land is useless to most people. Bare land is a dream. It's say, hey, I want to buy land in the countryside, and in 5 years, we're going to build our dream home there. I'm going to put a cabin on there. It's a dream. It's a dream. And then the dream falls apart. Something happens and you come back to reality and say, you know what? I just can't make that happen. Unlike a vacation home where, hey, I can rent out the vacation home if I'm not using it. Or I can sell the vacation home because everybody wants a vacation home or people want to move to that market. There's very few people that really want land that they can't do anything with. Yeah, you can put a trailer on there and you can camp. Most people don't want to go up and drive somewhere to go camp on a piece of land they own. But the reality is a lot of sellers who have bare land are people who had a dream and that dream fell apart. And so they need to do whatever they need to do to get rid of that property. Now, some of them, I'm not saying that you can, I want to say this right way. My point is land is highly volatile and more illiquid than any other investment. So in the right circumstances, it's always a good time to negotiate on land. And now is a better time. So I am 100% agreeing with your statement saying, is it a good time to negotiate on land? For sure, because you have the normal volatility of land. You have the normal, hey, I was a dreamer, my dream fell apart. But now as the economy is starting to shift, as people are starting to get more concerned about the market and more concerned about their jobs, people who had a dream are going to forego that dream. People who are afraid the market's going to fall further are going to say, you know what, I'd rather just get rid of the land now because I need that money to do something else. And so I agree 100%, Annie. Now is a good time for you to negotiate on land, but I'm worried about land buyers and what is your long-term goal? Because what I don't want is for you to be a dreamer that has your dream fall apart. And financing on land is very hard to do. If you're paying cash, that's great. But financing on land, banks are worried about the same thing I just described. Banks are worried about you having a dream and that dream falling apart. And there isn't really a good backup plan to earn income on that land. And worse yet is once you start saying, hey, I'm going to build on this land, and then something happens, now you've got a half-built home that is actually worth less than the original land was. Because you have to find an owner that's willing to finish your project the way you had started it, or they've got to tear it down to get it just back to the starting point of a blank slate. So construction loans are very, very hard to come by right now. Land loans are very, very hard to come by right now. down payments for those are pretty large and interest rates are pretty high. So I just worry about land. The mortgage world has had concerns with land ever since 2008, and it came back a little bit in the late teens, 2017 to 2019, and then COVID blew up all of the reasonable construction and land loans because of the concern just with liquidity and what happened during COVID, and it hasn't come back. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, or maybe I went too far, but I think it's the bottom line is I think it's a great buying opportunity right now. And if you're a seller, you need to be a little bit nervous. You need to be a little bit aggressive if you need to sell your home. But if there's a backup plan, consider that backup plan. Decide, hey, maybe I can rent out the house, keep it as a rental property. There's another set of risks if you go down that road, but that is a very viable option for a lot of people. Super low interest rates you got back in 2020 and 2021, and being able to rent out that property as an investment property instead of selling it in this market may be a good plan. So it's important to know what all of your options are. And I want to be super clear. I'm interviewing to be your lender, to be your advisor to help you with those options. So scan this QR code up top or go to my website, set up a time to meet with me. I'd love to talk with you. And a quick update to those of you who are looking at California Dream for All. First of all, again, 2,500 vouchers issued last week. I've got my calendar full of people who are looking to use their voucher now. But there's two other groups of Dream for All people I want to talk about, which is the people who are looking for next year. Now is the time to start talking to me about getting prepared for next year. But the second group is people who already got the Dream for All loan. I'm getting lots of phone calls from people who are saying, John, I see rates are going to be falling. I want to be ready to refinance my Dream for All loan, and I want to know how it works. So I am doing a webinar this Monday, yes, on Labor Day, at 9:30 in the morning. So check it out. It's on my YouTube channel. It's all over my social media. Email me if you can't find it. But join me if you have a Dream for All loan from the past. Join me this Monday morning at 9:30. I'm going to cover everything you need to know about refinancing your Dream for All, how it works, what things you need to watch out for, what are the right tips, when to refinance, and what you should be looking for. And I'm going to cover all of that this Monday on the holiday at 9:30 in the morning. All right, guys, I am ready to wrap up. So if you have any questions, feel free to post those right now. If you're watching live, if you're watching recorded, post questions and I'll come back and get to them later. I just want to be super clear. We are in a highly volatile environment. The market is shifting. The rates are shifting. The housing market is shifting. You need to have good guidance. I appreciate you joining me here to get the guidance from me, but I'd love to guide you one-on-one. So if you've never talked to me, scan that QR code up top. You can get a link there when you download my app that is for you to schedule an appointment with me. Set up a 30-minute conversation so I can help talk through your goals with you and help you figure out what the right move is to help you to achieve your long and short-term financial goals. Doesn't look like I have any questions, so I really appreciate everybody. Hope you have an absolutely wonderful holiday weekend. And if you have a Dream for All loan or you're thinking about getting Dream for All and you want to think ahead about what does it look like to refinance it down the road, join me live Monday morning at 9:30, or you can catch it on the replay on all of my YouTube channels. Thanks, everybody. Have an absolutely wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.